I found podcasting to be one of the best networking tools. A lot of my clients end up on my podcast and vice versa. A lot of people I've had on my podcast will end up being clients. So there's one revenue stream right there. Another one is creating ads for my own services that I can put into my podcast because I'm a digital entrepreneur. I do web design stuff, so I can promote my own services. Welcome to Unplugged, the tech podcast for digital entrepreneurs. I am one of your hosts, Brooke, the founder of the Sober Biz Collective.
Hey, podcasters. My name's Nate Kelly, best-selling author and founder of Podcast Revolution Studios. If you're looking for tech, tools, and tips on how to utilize podcasting for your business, you're in the right spot. Let's get unplugged.
So you were talking about podcast myths for today, Mythbusters?
What do you think about it? I have a couple myths. Yeah, I think it might be fun.
I want to hear some because I was trying to think of like what I would talk about. I'm like, I don't even know what myths would be.
Mythbuster, the Podbusters. So I think one that we've kind of touched on already in several of our conversations, but that may scare off some new podcasters or potential podcasters is that podcasts are only for tech savvy people. And I think we've already busted that one, but what is your perspective on, you've mentioned that a lot of your website or design clients just kind of need training wheels or to be shown some things and to kind of remove that stigma or that scary thought of diving in. It's not as tech heavy as you think. Do you agree with that?
I absolutely agree with that. And I think it's just going to keep getting easier and easier and easier. When I first started podcasting, there was definitely more of barriers to entry than there is now. And I think with like AI tools and all these things coming, like CapCut and different things, it makes it so much easier, not just to make a podcast, but to make like a video podcast. And Spotify is really changing the game and making it extremely easy to upload your content, where I feel like podcasting is going to be the new blogging. And it's already starting to kind of move that way, right? So I think some of the best podcasters I know today that have like huge followings started in their car with their microphone that plugs into your phone. They were talking into that, and that's how they started their podcast. And now they're like super successful. I think it's more important to be consistent than be tech savvy, which is where I have been lacking, which is why this partnership has come to be.
Which is why Nate rapid fires text messages to Brooke and probably annoys her. And we talked about this in episode 1 too, but that will start to establish that pattern of recording, and you kind of shake off the nerves and you get used to hearing your own voice when you're editing, and it starts to remove all of these fears about starting something new. And as you develop your skill set and get better at interviewing and realize kind of the flow of a conversation and an interview, then that might be, the time to invest in a $60 or $70 microphone, download some editing software. But I don't mind the audio that the wired Apple earbuds produce. It's decent. And if you're using a platform like Spotify, to your point, it's very, very user friendly. If you can record yourself on your camera, or if you can create a short TikTok, you can podcast.
Absolutely. And what a way to find your voice too. Like your closet is an amazing studio. If you have a closet in your home full of clothes, like get in there, like Nate was saying, with the headphones that plug into your iPhone, sit in your closet, do some episodes, get to know your voice, get to know like how you want to show up and what you wanted to produce. And even if you don't press like upload and you don't send it out into the world, just getting that practice is huge. And I find too, when I start something, I get really excited about it. I get into it. And like halfway down the journey, I realize, oh, this was leading me somewhere else. And there's a new show that's going to come out of this. And there's new relationships that come out of things. And it's going to grow and evolve. And that's so much more valuable than, knowing how to edit your videos, like just getting
So
out there and
true.
doing it, right?
Absolutely. Now, myself, I spent 21 years in the closet. So I prefer a studio setting or, a co-hosted show, but, to each their own. Some go back in the closet, I guess, but it is an amazing sound treated,
Yeah.
probably the most sound treated area a regular home that you can find is a closet.
I think podcasting is reclaiming the closet, because
That's true.
you're
There
like
we
finding your
go.
voice and telling the
Reclaim
world
it.
who you are in the closet now.
So there are some myths about audience growth and
Mm,
needing this million follower platform to work with brands or to procure a sponsor for the show
mhm,
or to create ads. And to be honest, when I started, the Sobriety Diaries does have ads in the show, but prior to actually working with brands and getting paid for them, I created my own ads for, Spotify or for StreamYard, for example, before
mhm.
I was getting anything for it, just to kind of put on my radio voice and create ads. And, it kind of creates a different feel to the show. I think some shows are appropriate for ads and some aren't, but there isn't a, minimum audience that you need to work with brands. Some brands prefer smaller shows or smaller influencers. So I think as long as there is traction and growth and you kind of have goals that you're hitting and you're increasing, that's how I look at things. As long as I'm getting better and growing, I don't look at somebody else's, or I try not to look at other people's numbers.
I actually found it because we're talking to digital entrepreneurs. Like this is really a show to talk about. You probably own a business if you're listening to this right now,
Yeah.
and I found podcasting to be one of the best networking tools. A lot of my clients end up on my podcast, and vice versa. A lot of people I've had on my podcast will end up being clients. So there's one revenue stream right there. Another one is creating ads for my own services that I can put into my podcast because I'm a digital entrepreneur. I do web design stuff, so I can promote my own services during a podcast episode as well. So there's another revenue stream. You could create a digital download product that could get people on your email list, which is
Oh,
going to
like a
nurture
5-day
them.
challenge?
Like a 5-day challenge.
Oh, okay. Just curious.
Exactly like that, actually. And then, like, to your point, there's so many ways to get into affiliate marketing where you can get codes, you can create an Amazon affiliate link and that kind of stuff. And then things that are really specific to your niche, to your clients, to the people that you want to speak to, they're going to be listening to us. And podcasting is the highest converting ad rate out of any other medium, out of social media, email marketing, all that, because podcast listeners, for whatever reason, like when they're there to get information from you, they want to know what to buy, they want to know what to do, so they're going to listen to you. You're an authority as a podcaster, and they're going to purchase the things that you're suggesting to them to make their life easier, right? Like that's what they're there for. So it's a really great place for affiliate marketing. It's a really great place to talk about your own services, to even have clients on that have worked with you to talk about their experience. Like the testimonial you get from a podcast is just amazing. The networking, like there's so many ways to generate revenue with your podcast that come before you have a huge audience.
Yeah, it's more important, I think, to pair with things that relate to your audience. To your point, these listeners, they're there for a reason. Ads are part of the show, and it's going to reflect, your business and the content that you're putting out as well, I think is important to remember.
Have you ever done an ad or worked with a brand and been like, oh, that didn't work.
I
That wasn't for
have.
me. That wasn't for my audience. Like, what was that experience like?
I have, yes. So it was a sunglasses brand. And this was right after I got my first like paid sponsorship on the Sobriety Diaries. So, I was like blinded by not even a dollar sign because it wasn't that much money, but blinded by almost a fame factor or like
Mm,
getting recognition by companies and brands. And I was kind of just scooping up anything or any
mhm.
email that came my way. And it was a sunglass brand, and it's on a self-help and recovery sobriety podcast. And it just kind of felt icky afterwards. I got a few comments on social media posts for it. It was my fault. I wanted to take accountability for my decision. So, um, not apologizing to the audience, but just stating that moving forward, I would be kind of more cognizant of any partnerships or branding or brand deals that I brought onto the show. And I think I did lose a bit of credibility and for that stretch of episodes, and kind of wanted to redeem myself after that and make sure that, I only partnered with things that mattered to my audience.
Yeah. Yeah. I think things are getting shifting a little bit. I know when I first started podcasting, like there's more taboo things going on.
yeah,
But the world of affiliate marketing and everything has really opened up, and a lot of people are involved in it more so than before. And yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in, people wanting to work with you and
yeah.
promote you, give you money. And especially when you're just starting out, like that's really exciting. But I think having a clear understanding of your audience is so important. So you don't kind of take away from the value that you're giving them, just trying to sell them something. Because people don't want to be sold to, right? They want to buy, but they don't want to be sold to.
You want the sell part to kind of feel more organic though,
Yeah.
right? And not that sell, but you've built this trust and established this connection. It's kind of just like, here's this thing that I also have if you want it, if
Yeah.
we've gotten to that point in our relationship.
Absolutely. It should be like a funnel. Like it should make total sense to your audience that have been following you and that are like there for it, right? Like the stuff you've been serving them is helping them make these steps on their own journey. And then the sell is like, I want your help. I don't want to do this alone anymore. Like,
Yes.
please like take this off my hands, do it for me, or show me how to streamline this and help me put it into practice, hold me accountable, that kind of stuff, right? Like,
Jesus, take the wheel.
like yeah, do yoga, but I do web design.
That was me. Hey,
Yeah.
you want some shades?
Yeah.
Okay, next myth. This is a good one. We're about to bust it. Scripting every word is a must.
Mm.
God, could you imagine sitting here?
Oh, I've tried.
Unplugged Bloodbuster. Oh my God. I think, it comes with that, knocking down those fears and just creating a routine for yourself that you get more and more comfortable. I think, imagine someone standing on stage and reading a script or
Mhm.
word for word something at you, not really to you or with you. I think, even if it's not a video podcast, I think that like hesitancy or awkwardness and reading every word comes through the airwaves for sure, even if people can't see you reading it. And it's a time waste. There's no authenticity to
Mhm.
it or conversational aspect to the show. I can tell for sure when people are reading.
Oh, 100%. I think it's harder on a solo show. People can get really into wanting to like write down every word because they're going to
Yeah.
forget. And then sitting in front of a mic can be intimidating sometimes. And you might find that you're freezing. So you might want to write down a script or an outline or something to get started and get your ideas flowing. Or maybe you're a better writer than you are a speaker, whatever it is. But I read a really good book. It was from the people from TEDx. I'm just going to look up the title so I make sure you guys
Ooh.
have this. have this to download. I got it on Audible, and then I listened to it in my car, and it really helped me when it come to creating like I do a lot of public speaking events. So, and it's hard to know, like, when you're public speaking, like, do I memorize something?
Yeah.
Do I just go off the cuff because you're in front of an entire audience? I have anxiety.
I was just gonna say, you are sort of now exploring this stand-up part of your, do you consider it like part of your business, or is it like a hobby? What is, and or how have you write your sets out?
So I actually had one of my clients wanted to start a platform for speakers in recovery that wanted to share their stories and get the word out there about, we're healing from mental health, we're healing from addiction, there's life after addiction, and try and find some ways to help actually like solve this problem before it becomes a problem, because we're all looking at like the symptoms of the problem and not what's actually causing the problem.
Mm.
So I was helping him build that platform. And part of that was I got to start speaking on stages in front of people. And I started like, researching TED Talks and do all this stuff because my imposter syndrome just went like,
Right.
like I have I've talked on podcasts, but not in front of like human beings. And I used to do like
Yeah.
plays when I was in high school, and I did a couple things at church, but nothing like public speaking, especially things that are
This
so hard.
level.
'Cause, yeah, I'm just talking about recovery, and I'm talking about like my brother and really hard subjects, grief and loss and all that, right? So I was a mess, and I like propped up my camera, talked in front of my phone, and like did these little speeches, like watched other TED Talks and all that kind of stuff, and put something together. But I was really, really fortunate that I was so busy helping him actually put on the event that I didn't have a ton of time to rehearse. And I'm so glad for that because
Yeah.
I had my ideas, I wrote it all out. I had practiced it a couple times, and then it was just like, okay, the rest is up to you, universe. Like, where
Yeah.
please make
Absolutely.
this good, And it allowed me to be a lot more present in the moment. And like, I had an idea of what I was going to say. I knew how I was going to start and how I was going to finish. And I just let the rest kind of roll through. And then there's a timer going on. So that's how I really got started. For comedy, it's quite different because, well, you're writing comedy.
Yeah. So
But
you write a, do you write a joke, or do you write like the lead in and like the audience banter as much as you can? Like, what's your process?
I start with they're called scratches. So as ideas come up through your week and stuff happens, you just like write out, oh, that was
Mm.
kind of funny, and like a little note about it. And then I was in an 8-week class where we would sit and like workshop our scratches every week and like, tell them to each other and then bounce ideas off each other and build on the joke and that. And then you have this like huge joke, and then you have to take that joke and then make it like
Yeah.
just
It's
super
like that little extra.
fine. Yeah, because long jokes that you have to explain aren't actually that funny, especially when you're standing in front of a crowd. For podcasts, it's okay, but when you're doing stand
Oh,
up,
do
you
you
want them
get
to like
it?
be like clear. Yeah. But that was wild. And I found that I definitely over rehearsed because I was so nervous. I think writing out your set is really important, like knowing what you're going to say and everything. And then again, just leave it to the side. By the time I got on stage, I was almost sick of my own jokes, because I had just like
Oh, I'm
practiced them
sure.
so much.
Yeah.
But once the audience was like reacting to it and everything, it was just like such a high, and I loved it. I'm signing up for a couple open mics just to try out some new stuff and
I
keep that
love
going because it was
it.
so fun. Yeah.
You are like the poster child of courses and classes and challenging yourself and learning new things. It's like inspiring. I really,
Uh,
yeah, I don't, especially for something that is so anxiety driven and just out of really anyone's comfort zone, with the exception of like 0.001% of like successful famous stand-up comedians.
yeah.
It's, yeah, it's inspiring.
Well, thank you, Nate. Okay,
Yes.
so the book is actually just called TED Talks. It's by Chris Anderson, who is the person who took over TED Talks and made it into a nonprofit organization.
Mm.
And they had some amazing, amazing tips for public speaking that I think really would do well for podcasting as well.
Awesome. I will link it in the show notes for today's episode. You ready for the next myth? Guests need to be low-level celebrities, successful people, or have a minimum social media following.
Mm.
I mean, I think that one is just kind of silly, to be honest, especially, coming from two people who started like self-help and recovery-based vulnerable shows. I think that everyone has a story to tell, and part
Mhm.
of, the responsibility that I take on as a host in that sort of genre is helping someone to find their voice and leading them through the conversation and
Mhm.
kind of being on my toes, and if they're at a loss for words, or if there's a lull in the conversation, I take that on as a responsibility, as the host of the show, to be able to help them tell their story in the best way and feel confident about that and find their voice.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of number wise, I mean, if you can get somebody that's got a large following and is going to drive traffic to your podcast, that's great. Yeah, that's the attract piece. Like you're bringing people to learn who you are, and you're utilizing someone else's audience, and that's amazing. And you're probably going to get a lot of new listeners from that, which is really nice. But I found that some of the more, I don't know if they're famous, well-known people that I've
Yeah,
interviewed, like
notable.
absolutely loved it. I adored it. Was it the best interview I did? Probably not.
Right.
Like, you know, there's
They're
some
kind
when
of
I
disengaged. They've done it a
sometimes,
thousand
yeah,
times. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. And everyone's heard their story. There's so many places that people can hear from them too. So it's like, it's good. I've had really good experiences, and I have not good experience. If I had a guy we were supposed to interview, he didn't even show up. He didn't
Hmm.
respond. Like we had him booked, and he just never showed up. And we had his whole community had posted on his Facebook group that he was going to be there. So we had all these people for a live show on
Wow.
Facebook that were kind of disappointed. So what we ended up doing was pulling people from the audience that were
Hmm.
watching the show. We put the Zoom link in there, and we're like, just come on, we'll bring you in and we'll have a chat. And that's going to be our episode. It was the best show we did. Like it was so good. I got to meet this woman that I still connect with today, like just seeing her journey and recovery and stuff and what's going on for her. Like it was just probably better than actually getting to interview that guy, just
Yeah.
hearing from all the people that were actually listening to the show and bringing them on just so sporadically like that too. So like the universe always has a plan, right?
Absolutely. Yes. I
Yeah.
love that so much for scripting every episode. Sometimes the universe just, comes together and that sort of magic happens.
Yeah.
I think also you said something that kind of resonated with me is, the consistency is important, getting your episodes out each week, developing that sort of interview and storytelling
Mhm.
technique, getting your show out there, continuing to build your audience. And there comes a time when it kind of flips and people are reaching out to you because they want
Mhm.
to be on your show. And it's not so much of a grindstone where you're chasing people and looking for guests that are appropriate. I remember when that started happening with the Sobriety Diaries, and it kind of was a sense of validation that we're reaching the right people, and what I'm doing matters in a way.
Mhm. Yeah. I think there's something too with people that haven't really been heard before, sharing their
Yes,
stories for the first
so
time. There's
true.
this vulnerability and this like magic that happens. And those are the episodes always. Like it's never the big ones that I think are going to be huge or whatever. It's those small, intimate, like people who have never podcasted before. They're sharing the story for the
Yeah,
first time. It's so real. There's so much emotion in it. They're really in it when they're sharing because, like you said, they
so
haven't
true.
shared it like a million times, right? And those are the ones I get the emails for that are like, "Oh my gosh, that just changed my life." Like I really needed to hear that. That was so beautiful. Like those are the things people are actually connecting with and responding to and sending me messages about, even if they don't have the highest listens, like they're really making the biggest impact.
And there's like this deep sense of gratitude,
Yeah.
to your point, it may be the first time that they're telling their story and they realize that, they have a story to tell and that it matters and that people are listening. Yeah, my
And then they're
favorite.
going to
You're
share
such
it like crazy too. Like
Yes,
they want
so
everyone
true.
to know.
Be
Yeah.
like, listen, I'm on a podcast. Okay, last myth for today. We're busting myths all over the place here on Unplugged. Quality or quantity for your first 15 episodes?
Mm.
I think we've kind of already touched on this.
Yeah.
My vote's quantity, because it's specifically saying like in the beginning, you're still getting your feet wet. I think the quantity and the repetition eventually leads to quality, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think it also like define quality because for me, like I got so caught up in I need to have all this stuff to make it look good and sound good
Yeah,
and you know?
true.
And then
Yeah.
and then you sit in front of the mic the first time, you're like, oh, I have nothing of quality to actually say.
Good point.
Right?
Like it might sound good, but I sound like a moron.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it is important to find your voice and to practice and to allow yourself permission to suck at it and for it to sound weird and whatever. I'm working on a project with some friends called the Nice Girls Club. It's a in-person podcast. And we had to get one done because we've been doing this for 6 months, like getting it started. So I got
Yes.
these like 15, I got 3 mics for $40 off of Facebook Marketplace. So I'd have enough for everybody,
Yeah.
they weren't the best quality. And we sat down, we did our first episode and the audio is kind of weird because I had the processing on my Rode because I just got it and it's got new features and I didn't spend the time to like look through it or whatever. So things weren't great. Like there was some like as someone who edits things all the time, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
I hate this so much. But we put it out there and it's got the highest listens of a lot of stuff I've put out right now because we just had so much fun doing it. And we gave ourselves permission to suck at it and to just enjoy it because we were both in this comedy class together. So we're making like a comedy podcast sort of thing that talks about like mental health and recovery and stuff. Yeah.
She's pretty funny too.
Yeah. And we got a lot of people that were in that course that we want to talk to and like get their voices out there and, do live shows and stuff. So I'm really excited for it, but totally in the space right now of like, we just need to get done, get our dynamic
Right.
down, like practice this and have fun sucking at it for a while. We're only going to get better, right?
That's right. It's only up from here. Well, as someone who also edits a lot and is always kind of listening for something, as an outsider from that show, I didn't see any audio issues. I loved it. I thought you guys had a good banter. So yeah, I'm sure it has
good.
high downloads for a reason.
Well, every time we laughed, the mics cut out because it would like peak. So you can't hear any laughter. It's just like silence. Well, yeah, there you go.
There you go. Nice Girls Club. We'll link it in today's show notes.
Yes, please.
Check out Brooke's comedy podcast. Thanks so much for hanging out today. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube for all of our video content at Unplugged Tech Pod.
And join us in our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Unplugged Podcast. Also, make sure to throw us a 5-star review if you are finding this content valuable for you and your digital business. We accept all forms of reviews, Apple Podcast, Spotify follows, YouTube, telling your grandmother about us.
And make sure to share the episode with one person in your life who may find it valuable. And we'll see you next time on Unplugged.
And I think it's good enough, and we're just going to keep getting better.